of festivity.
Wow. Now, what's the festivity coming from?
Oh man, because the media in this country, in combination, the media with the white power structure in this country, are always playing games on Black folk. And some of the things I tell Black folk to watch out for, they never pay attention to it. So right now, one of the first ones, for instance, is in the paper this morning from the Washington Post. Tension in Rhode Island's capital over white access. Now whites are going to get affirmative acts be included in any reparations programs in the country. And
so white people want reparations?
Yeah, they want to be included in reparations. You got all kind of significantly inadequate, what I call conflicted, criminally incompetent Black leadership in America that's always want to try to do everything for everybody rather than focusing the attention on those who had a problem for 465 damn years and do something for them. You're looking at, and that's in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party. And I know you probably can't see that too well, can you?
I can. Well, the article I couldn't see, but I got a copy of it right here on my phone.
Okay.
And you so there's two articles you had sent me that you were upset about, and one was involving Rhode Island, and then another one was a Wall Street Journal article. You want me to start with Rhode Island?
Whatever turns you on or blows you, bloomers.
Okay, all right, then I'm gonna start reading here then. All right, so by the way, everybody, as you come in, some of y'all are listening on the YouTube channel also. Make sure you write down Dr. Anderson's website. It is powernomics.com. That's powernomics.com. So go to powernomics.com because the holidays are coming, and I hope that you'll make it a Powernomics Christmas in your household. And even if you already have his books, you can always buy books as gifts. And what me and my wife do is we just like to buy a lot of them and give them away. And we're going to actually buy some more very soon. So feel free to go to powernomics.com. All right, so let me read this, Dr. Anderson. I'd like to get your thoughts. So it says here that there's tensions high in Rhode Island, in Rhode Island's capital over white access to reparations programs. So it says Providence, Rhode Island is joining the growing ranks of cities trying to rectify the history of discrimination against Black residents through reparations programs. The mayor, Jorge Elorza, with Black residents by his side, recently signed a $10 million budget for the Providence Municipal Reparations Program. Quote, the radical thing we did was put Black voices in the center of city policymaking, Elorza said. While Elorza has focused on how the program would help the city's Black and Native American residents, there's a hitch. It is race neutral. Black and Native American Providence residents qualify automatically, but the city has also established a separate income-based criteria that could include about half of its white residents. Dr. Anderson, your thoughts?
Well, so let's go back to the first paragraph. See, and they keep dropping little hints, showing you the things I've told Black folk to watch out for, like snakes in the bushes. In that first paragraph, it said in there, again, there's a growing rank of cities trying to rectify their history of discrimination. Hell, we're not talking about discrimination. I have no interest in Black folk eradicating discrimination. It is humanly impossible, physically, mentally, and psychologically, in any respect, for you to stop people from discriminating. Discrimination is not a problem for Black folk. That discrimination issue pertains to those who are what we call fabricated minorities, like people got religious problems or some ethnicity or language problems. That's discrimination. Every human being, Dr. Watson, has a right to discriminate. He cannot make decisions in a complete and a competitive world. He cannot discriminate. He can't tell which is the right way to go, to turn or go, or who to pick or choose. Every father, every mother discriminates every damn day in every house over what they want to do for their children. They discriminate between the oldest and the youngest, between the girls and the boys. We don't have any problem with discrimination. That is not racism. Racism is a complex, competitive issue strictly between whites and Blacks. It doesn't include anybody else. And I'm sick and tired. That's why I'm pissed to the highest level of pissivity. I've been telling black folks this in this general society ever since I was with President Carter, with President Clinton. Same thing over and over and over again. Racism is racism. Racism never existed until 1859, 1 year before the damn Civil War. That is a conflict between blacks and whites that went on for all those years, and which covered and justified slavery. And then later on, it passed on into the black codes after the Civil War and became what we call formalized segregation. And now that later on they switched over and became what we call the after, I guess, about 1965, when white women went down to the Congress and says, if you write a new civil rights law, put women in there and take black folk out. You still have black folk that don't understand that after all this damn time. I'm up in age now. I don't know how much longer I'm gonna be around here, but I'm just sick and tired and pissed off. You have no damn black leadership. And then these articles, it'll tell you have no damn black leadership. You go down to the second paragraph, it talked about how the mayor goes down to the public arena to talk about, again, about reparations. He takes a whole bunch of blacks with him that are codifying and ratifying and approving in the inclusion of whites into reparations and American Indians into what reparations and all these other minority groups, fabricated minorities. I'm sick and tired. That's why you can never get anything resolved in this country, because every issue that comes up that should be pertaining strictly to black folk, you get into some kind of conference, you got some black leadership meeting with everybody and kicking the can down the damn road. They never focus on the issue. You've been having, right now, black folk hold a record, in conclusion, Dr. Watkins, for having been in America, having been enslaved, Jim Crow segregated, benign, neglected, and ignored for 465 years. That is a record that no other group on earth has. Nobody on earth, no ethnic group, racial group, any group has been enslaved that long, and people are still kicking the can down the road, talk about everything but black folk. I always want to bring in, black folk can't go to the bathroom, but I'm bringing everybody into the bathroom with them.
Well, you know what, Dr. Anderson, it's real funny you say that, because I did look up while you were speaking. I looked up the definition of discriminate, and of course, there's the racial definition that people like to use. But what a lot of people don't understand is that discriminate is defined. I don't have it in front of me anymore, but it said to basically differentiate one thing from another.
That's right.
That it's the harmless act of just saying I choose this over that. And what you're basically saying is that discrimination is not the issue. The issue is systematic racism, a system that puts whites above everybody else, or black people beneath everybody else. Is that what you're saying?
Yes, sir. See, that came back, and that started out in 1859. It rolled all the way through from the 1400s until 1859. After this country has systematically maldistributed almost 100% of all this nation land, minerals, rights, gold, opportunities, education, money, and land, and everything into the hands of the dominant white society for control and use. And in 1859, right on the eve of the Civil War, white folks say, now we own and control nearly 100% of everything in this country. And we came here as Europeans. We were invited to come here. For what reasons? To get free land and free black labor, which makes it impossible. You give somebody all the land they want free and all the labor they want free and don't have to pay for any of these things, then wonder why there's disparity. That's why the next article I'm going to talk about with you. I said that is game plan, pure game plan. They know it. They know that everything was maldistributed into the hands of the dominant white society. That's why right now, as you see that chart on the wall behind me there, that big long blue part, you see that on the wall?
Yep.
Long blue is what whites in this country has been owning now ever since 1789. That blue, they own it. That's what they own in terms of wealth and net worth. Now, if you go down to the bottom of that chart, you probably can't see that. a little small line down here, right at the bottom. It shows you down there. The black folks have got the little red line. The red line is so small and so thin, you can't even see it. And the other, anything even coming close to being large is talking about Asians that are coming to the country now. They're just
Dr. Anderson, we can't hear you so clear.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now we can. Now we can.
Okay, and that's I'm saying right now that black folk, the thin line, they own one half. Listen, Dr. Watkins, one half, not a 3/4, not one, but one half of 1% of anything of value, going all the way from Bridgeport, Connecticut, which is as far as up you can get up into the East Coast, all the way across the nation, over to San Diego. They don't own a damn thing. And every time you look around, they want to say, we're gonna get everybody. For what? This country only enslaved one group of people. You didn't enslave no damn Asians, Arabs, anybody else. As a matter of fact, you didn't even, during the slavery, you know what you had, how many Arabs you had in this country? Zero. You know how many, and you know how many in doing slavery, how many Hispanics they had in this country? About 4%, only about 44,000 Hispanics in the entire United States during all those years of Civil War. And now, and the only person here was being enslaved were black people. You weren't enslaving no damn Indians. Indians were signing and signed contracts with the darn Southern Confederacy. Those very same boys you see climbing up the walls in the Congress last year in June and January 6th, trying to break in there and break into the Capitol. They call themselves the Patriots or the Plowboys and all this kind of stuff. Those people came and their ancestors, get this point, their ancestors came to America. What did they come here for? To get free benefits. That's the only reason they came in, because the founding fathers invited them to come. Say, come to America. All of you get on the ships and boats and come over here. We can take up over all this land, and we're gonna get all these blacks and we're gonna use them. And so after the Constitution was ratified in 1789, guess what? The next year, the first bill that Congress passed, that same Congress you see up on the hill there, first bill they passed was called an immigration bill, which says the way we're gonna keep this status quo, what you're talking about in discrimination, so you can pick and choose, the way we're gonna keep that is that we're gonna make sure that in this country, this is pronounced as a white nation. And the only people can come here can be white immigrants. And that way we make sure we keep and maintain a balance of control. And at that point in time, and when during the slavery broke out right after that, that in the South, out of all the 5 or 6 Southern states, the population in the South for black folk was over 51%. 51% of the South was black. And guess what? And the North, whites dominated, because they were getting the benefits up north of all the labor of black folk. And so consequently, they wanted to make sure they keep that ratio. And so we dominated the population in Florida, Alabama, Mississippi, Georgia, South Carolina, Louisiana, all the way across the country was dominated by blacks in population, 51%. And when they say every time they bring in whites in this country, the immigration laws is the leverage they use to make sure that there's a racial balance with a lot of whites and no blacks. All these Asians, Arabs, and every other group coming here. When I was in the White House with President Carter, they are defined by policies in this country as whites, Hispanics, and nothing but whites speaking Spanish. And the biggest enslavement groups in the country and in the world were Hispanics, Arabs, French, Germans, British, Norwegians, and Portuguese. Those were all slave and holding nations in Europe. And also to spread over, we had Asians or slave holders, American Indians were slave holders. Every group in this world has been holding blacks into slavery. And they always want to mix them together and call it, well, Dr. Anderson is the only one trying to point it out to him. We'll use very broad and ambiguous words. These black folk don't know the difference. Nixon talked about that in the White House when he came in 1982. But and saying that told Holden what to do is you always use these very broad, ambiguous words when you talk about race. He used to use words like minority, poor folk, people of color, black, blue collar workers, poor whites, anything. The blacks will never figure it out.
Well, you know, Dr. Anderson, I'll tell you what, it's interesting you talk about that. I heard you a minute ago talk about, just some of the false ideas we have about the role Native Americans played in what happened to Black people. And this is not, a blanket an indictment, but the other day we had one of our teachers from the Black Business School. His name is Cody Ransom. He's doing a master class on Black Wall Street, where he's going to teach the history of Black Wall Street. One thing that he was talking about the other day was something I remember hearing you mention, which is that the 5 civilized tribes, that they were called the 5 civilized tribes largely because of slavery. And that a lot of the people that we've been led to believe were our allies during slavery were not really our allies. Did you want to kind of address some of that?
Yes, Black folk have never had any real allies in this country. Do you think for a second, I know you don't because I know your intellect, do you think for a second that we could have maintained various forms of slavery and Jim Crow semi-slavery and subordination of Black folk and exploiting of Black folk for 465 years if you had that many allies? Where are the allies? Where are they? I've never in my life, and I'm pretty old now, and I've never seen a march. I never seen white women, for instance, marching. Are those our allies? When do you have a white person march for the freedom of Black folk? Give me a march. When do you see Indians coming off the reservation and marching to bring benefits to Black folk, free them? None of us have done it, because you see, what the first thing that whites were told right before we even had the 1776 Revolutionary War was that the way we can hold that country is that if you get some kind of a relationship between Black folk, between whites and Indians. Use them, because right now Blacks going to rebel if you get them a chance against slavery. And so the first time in 1516, the first treaty in America between Indians and whites was a 1516 Indian treaty, which again, what whites told those Indians at that time was that rather than running through the woods, whooping and jumping up and down and shooting arrows and trying to hunt for a living, if you join us and help us and maintain slavery in this country, we will reward you. And instead of calling you savages, we'll start calling you civilized. Civilized means you're no longer you're not a savage any longer. We'll take that damn savage off of you and we'll leave it on the Black folk. If you work along with us. They signed the damn treaty. And every Indian then was told, and if you sign this treaty for the Cherokee, Choctaw, Chickasaw, Creek, and Seminole Indians, we will call you all civilized. And when you get civilized, we're going to teach you how to have a house, have a farm, and use Black labor to run it for you. Damn it, and Black folk can't figure it out, even that damn Obama. He went up and give them every damn thing. Everything that should have gone to Black folk, he gave it to Indians. And the Indians went down south when the Civil War started, and signed an agreement with the Southern Confederacy, the same ones that was climbing those buildings up here in Washington, D.C., the Patriots, that hate Black folk, and talk about if you help us and work with us under what we call the Black Flag policy. The Black Flag policy meant any Black person you catch to join the Union Army. To join the Union Army, he puts on a Union uniform or associate with the Union Army. If he's Black, you kill him immediately. You catch one and never let one of them surrender. And what the Indians would do is throw them in the damn river or the lake, and as they try to swim, but on their head shoot up, they would have contests, see who can put a hole in his head that's in the top of the water. And then also when you caught one of them running away from his master, we'll pay you $25 for every one you catch and bring back to the white slave owner, to the master. And if you can't bring him back alive, then just bring him back his hair with his ears attached. We'll give you $22. Damn you. I said, I can tell him Black folks this. Wake up and smell the damn coffee. Indians then joined the Confederacy and signed the agreement. And that's why the whites then quit trying to enslave them. That's why how they got a federal Indian Bureau right now in Washington, D.C. that gives them reparations every damn day. They've been getting it ever since 1861. They've been getting reparations in this country. Every damn year, the federal Indian Bureau looks out for them. And they were slave owners. Slave owners, they get the benefits. When the initial bill was for the government, for reparation, was supposed to be for Black folk to redress the 1857 Dred Scott decision. It says a Black person has not even a human being. He's three-quarters of a human being. He has no rights, no privileges. His life belongs to the white people. They can kill him anytime they want to, and the insurance company will pay him off for every Black they kill. And I said, wake up and smell it, 'cause I'm sick and tired of these dumbass people putting them in office. Here comes the Democrats for their same old game and talking about, you ought to get out there and vote. Vote for what? You ain't vote. There's never been a white person nor a Black person get into a high-level political office that's ever done anything specifically and solely for Black folk. They don't do it. Every time you look around, they want to go join whites. Well, we're going to get together. We're going to talk and work something out. You can't. What you need to do is what Dr. Anderson told you 50 years ago. When I started writing these books and I left government. And I said, here's what you do. The first thing you do if you want to win in this country, nobody wants to be your ally. There are there's not one reward or motivational force of benefits for anybody to identify with Black folk. Show me what a person going to get if he identify with Black folk. What is he going to get for it? They're not coming here to get along with you or be your friends or your allies. They're here to displace you and get over you. That's why I predicted back in 1995 that Hispanics would become the dominant minority by 2013. And that's why the Department of Commerce just about 6-7 years ago put it in the paper in the Department of Census in the federal government that Black people now are an official underclass, which means as an underclass, just strictly by your position in the society, you are predestined to become either beggars or criminals. That's why you're gonna have 51% of all prisoners will always be Black. See, go ahead. I'm sorry.
No. I was gonna pull up, this other article that you mentioned that you said that you were. I mean, when you say that you're pissed off, I just I just said, you know what, I'm gonna step to the side and let the teacher do the talking because I have so much respect for you, and I want everybody. If you are anywhere around, I want to let you guys know a couple things. Number one, Dr. Claud Anderson's website, all his books are at powernomics.com. I hope you all will incorporate some of that Black spending, buying Black in general, into your holiday spending, whatever you choose to do. These books make great gifts, and unlike a toy, it's a gift that lasts a lifetime. Also, we talked about buying shares of stock for your kids, things like that. And also on the Black Business School, those of you that are interested in the history of Black Wall Street, we're doing a 4-week deep dive training intensive on Black Wall Street, basically breaking down who did what, how they built it, what was going on, all the things that you'll never learn in school. And one thing that we've been doing, Dr. Anderson, is I've been really reminding people that even when we have all these debates about what they're going to teach in the schools and what books are going to let them learn from in the schools, I say, why do we have to go through the gatekeeper? I think we can teach ourselves and teach each other. And that's why we had these meetings. And I wanted to read some of this article. You sent me this other article from Wall Street Journal that says disparity doesn't necessarily imply racism. And it's written by Roland Fryer. Roland Fryer, by the way, is a Black man that teaches at Harvard. He is yes, he is. Roland Fryer. He's interesting. He's very smart, but he's also got some conservative tendencies. He's married to a white woman. He also, what's interesting is that he's in my field, economics. That's how I know of him. And he also he had a bad Me Too incident a couple years at Harvard, and apparently he had some stuff where he was accused of doing some stuff with the ladies in the lab, and they at Harvard put the hammer down on him. They banned him from campus for a year. They took away his lab. He had a multi-million-dollar lab. He was a high flyer in his field, and apparently he's they sunk that eagle. But anyway, I'll tell you all more about Roland at some point. But it's really interesting that he wrote this article. So I'm gonna read some of it to you, and I'm gonna see. I'd like to get your reaction because you sent me. Your wife sent this to me and said you wanted to talk about it. So I'm gonna just do the reading, and then you can either interrupt me or I'll just read a little bit and stop. Is that okay with you?
Okay, go ahead. I'll wait for you to read it. You say you're gonna read it now? Okay.
Yep. Here we go. He says, I was raised in part by my paternal grandmother, a phenomenal Black woman born in 1925 who came of age during Jim Crow, attended Bethune-Cookman University in the early 1940s, and experienced both the promise and limitations of the civil rights era when integrating schools in Florida in 1969. She did her best to teach sixth graders subject-verb agreements minutes after being spat on by their parents. Her life's journey provided unlimited content as we sat together for nearly 3 decades, stuck with the et cetera, said, okay, let me fast forward past this. He says, the first discussion I can remember happened in 1988 when I was 11 after a visit to McDonald's. After ordering, my grandmother paid with a crisp $20 bill from her pocketbook, and the cashier put the change directly on the counter. When we got to the parking lot, she was incensed. You see that? The white woman didn't want to touch me. I had noticed it too, but thought the cashier was trying to be nice, trying to avoid passing on her own germs. My grandmother, no doubt, based in part on her experiences, saw racism everywhere, in every inequity, every statistic. Racial differences in wages, racism. Racial differences in education, achievement, racism. Racial differences in teen birth rates, racism. This sort of casual empiricism, which has crept back into mainstream media and other institutions, was a competitive sport amongst my family members. Did you see the way that white woman tightened her grip on her purse because I was behind her? Does this guy follow everybody around the store? A decade after the McDonald's incident in graduate school, I read a 1995 paper titled The Role of Pre-Market Factors in Black-White Wage Differences. Using a nationally representative sample of more than 12,000 14 to 17-year-olds from 1979, Derek Neal and William Johnson estimated that Blacks earn 35 to 45% less than whites on average. They examined how much the wage gap could be attributed to present-day discrimination in the workplace versus differences in skill as measured by the Armed Forces Qualifications Test, a cousin of the ACT and SAT. Importantly, they weren't trying to measure the effect of America's racist history running back to the early 17th century when the first African slaves were brought to work the tobacco farms of Virginia. Only the extent to which Blacks earn lower incomes because employers today make racially discriminatory decisions. Nor did they focus on prejudice more broadly. They ignored that my grandmother was spat on in the parking lot at work and concentrated on whether she was treated fairly once she entered the building. Quote, we find, they wrote in the abstract of their paper, quote, that this one test score explains all the Black-white wage gap for young women and much of the gap for young men. With their approach, anti-Black bias played no role in the divergent wages among women. A Black woman with the same qualifications as a white woman made slightly more money, and it accounted for at most 29% of the racial differences among men, with 71% traceable to disparate performance on the AFQT. The AFQT itself was evaluated by the Pentagon, which found that Black and white military recruits with similar scores performed similarly on the job, indicating no racial bias. The paper felt like an attack on what I knew, an assault on all those conversations with my grandmother, which taught me that racism, present tense racism, dictated Black-white inequality. I told myself that Neal and Johnson, both of whom were white, were probably bigots, and I set out on a mission to disprove their work. I vented about my battle with Neal and Johnson to a fellow graduate student at Penn State, a white guy from the cornfields of Southern Illinois. He was no more at home at a top 25 economics doctoral program than I was, and we spent a fair amount of time together during our first year staring at Euler equations in our favorite textbook, Recursive Methods in Economic Dynamics. I remember that book. It's a hard one. I told him I was sure discrimination was a bigger factor than Neal and Johnson were letting on, but I just can't get the data to cooperate. He asked why I was so convinced, and I erupted in a rant about the prevalence of racism and recognizing bigots on sight. My grandmother would have nodded rhythmically along. My friend responded with a burst of loud, sharp laughter in my face. He pointed out how far I was straying from our Euler equations, how on any subject rather than race, I would have never given in to such a sloppy thinking. The double identity, a classically trained economist taught to tease out causal relationships, and a Black Southern boy taught that discrimination is ubiquitous, had lived seamlessly inside me until that moment. Neal and Johnson, as it turned out, aren't bigots, and their conclusions have stood the test of time in my attempts to disprove him. I extended their analysis to unemployment, teen pregnancy, incarceration, and other outcomes, all of which follow the same pattern. Moreover, the relationship between skills and wage has been confirmed by study after study, even when using different data and methods. Kevin Lang, an economist at Boston University, corrects important issues in Neal and Johnson's work, but finds the same relationship between AFQT scores and wages. Taken together, an honest review of the evidence suggests that current racial inequities are more a result of differences in skill than differences in treatment of those with the same skill. What do you think, Dr. Anderson? I'm gonna stop right there.
I think, first of all, that and you say some very nice, glowing things about that individual, about his having attended school in Florida. But you tell him that he should have stayed and got retained about 4 or 5 times and waited for me to get there, because starting in 1970, I took over the state educational system for the entire state of Florida. And that's from elementary school all the way up to universities.
Well, actually, Dr. Anderson, he was in Texas. I think he grew up in Texas. But go ahead.
Okay.
Maybe he might have spent some time in Florida, but I think he's from Texas. But go ahead.
But he should have transferred over to Florida, so you learn something about human behavior and history, real history, not what white folks are teaching you, and they understand what racism, and clearly what he just said and what you just read means he doesn't know a damn thing about history, about racism. Racism never existed until 1859. And in 1859, when slavery, right before the Civil War, at that point in time, white folk had a meetings because black folk were getting anxious about and they started talking about sending a lot of them back out of the country, because they didn't need them anymore, because right now whites had recovered everything that slavery had produced and was in their hands in 1859. And what they said now is that race was a contest. It was started out as a contest in Europe. That's where the word race came from. They didn't pick bananas or potatoes or sugar or anything else, or cream. They say race, R-A-C-E. Race is a competitive situation. And I don't know why he can't get that through his head. He's got a doctor's degree and he's teaching at Howard or Harvard. He doesn't know what race is, and he's teaching the economics. But the first thing you would say is that race is a contest. It is a competitive relationships between groups of people who are competing for the ownership and control of resources. That's why 9 countries that got into a race, because in about 1504, 1505 in Europe, after Columbus discovered America, they found they had all this vacant land over here, and at that time, Pope Anderson had already come out and says, stop trying to exploit what you call savages in these Indians in different countries, because the Catholics always played a role of being helpful to Indians. And we go around and try to save their souls. And the Catholics were playing a major role in discrimination and racism at that point in time. And that's why he took from his experiences from the 16 blacks that were delivered to him by Henry the Navigator in 1446. The Catholic Church got 16 blacks, and they used them in the Catholic Church and in the Catholic societies as servants and waiters and builders, and also as guardians. And they also used them as homosexuals, so that whenever the Romans went to war, they would always take a bunch of black soldiers with them, and call them eunuchs at that time, so that at night they would fight with the white soldiers during the daytime. And at night they became like prostitutes. Mm-hmm. They laid it down and taught them to be homosexuals. And so that went on from 1446 up to about 1489, when Pope Anderson put out a public edict that says, in the future, I've learned something. And that is this: as a Pope for the church, he says, in the past, we only made slaves out of 3 different kinds of personalities. Those were black people who were indebted, point 1. Point 2, blacks who were prisoners of war. And point 3, blacks who had a religious commitment that made it competitive with us. Those are the 3 reasons. And I want to add another thing. He said, right now, I think it would be better for you to take these experiences that we gained from blacks and make it based on color. That started in 1488. You never had racism based on skin color before that. And that time, and they said, and we're going to try to use that and move towards developing, take the pressure off of Europe that was undergoing a lot of crime. They had a lot of diseases running across Europe. The potato industry, they couldn't find food. They were starving. They were criminally embased at that time. And so they said, what we'll do is that, so by 1503, 1502, they now say what we'll do is let's now try to send ships to the west and see if we can reestablish new bases over there. And that's what Columbus was about. They came over here and got this land, and they started using blacks, bringing black slaves over here. And the black slaves then did the work. Contrary, you got whites right now going over this country saying that right now the whites built this nation. That's one of the biggest lie that was ever told. White folk did not do that. These whites came to America because they was coming over to get free land and free labor. They didn't come over here to do no damn work. That's why it says. That's why on the scripture on the Statue of Liberty, say, give me your tired. You're tired. They didn't come here because they don't want to work. And give me your poor. They didn't come here because they had a lot of money. They were loaded on ships to come over here and get freebies. That's why right now blacks should be calling all these conservatives in America freeloaders. Call them freeloaders. They always talk about blacks. You blacks have never done anything. Black folks were the engines that drove economic development, not only for America, but those 9 countries that got into the race with Rome or with Italy to use black labor. They got into a contest and tried to use them to develop America. And they poured over here the Germans and the French all went all to North America, Central America, and South America and captured the land. And so we're gonna bring in slaves. Down for the Mexicans, they brought in over 3 million blacks just to dig in the mountains, looking for jewelry and gold and silver and ship it back to Spain. This game went on for the longest. And so that way, they use that to build wealth for these people. And what that did after those about 300 some years, by 1859, whites owned at that time 98% of everything of value and everything they had in their authority was connected with it. They had laws that forbid black folk to even try to get in a position of authority. And you started talking about education. You just talked about this guy up at Harvard at the same time, but it doesn't make any difference. Hell, they passed laws. They passed laws in every part of America saying that it is against the law to teach a black person to read and write, Dr. Watson. And if you get caught teaching a black person to read and write, it'll cost you $100 and 39 lashes or a whip with pieces of lead on the end of the lines. Now, yes, things are distributed, maldistributed. That's where the distribution occurred, the maldistribution. Now, why is he saying that disparity doesn't count? That it's all in skills. Skills my butt. The black folk, when they couldn't learn anything. They caught a black person learning things that whites had forbidden. Even in the schools, blacks had to learn industrial education. And only Howard University was permitted to be an exception for black folk, that they could teach them stuff like medicine and like architecture and engineering and law. That's the only school, and that's because that school would be controlled by the federal government under a white man, a president, and that was Howard.
Well, okay. You know what, Dr. Anderson, one thing that's interesting about, I don't dislike Roland Fryer, the guy who wrote the article, in the sense that, I understand him, again, because we're in the same field. He's in economics and I'm in finance, and they're very closely related. So I knew a lot about his career, and I respect what he's accomplished. But one of the things that I think we forget is how culture and cultural influences plays a part in the way we interpret information, the way we interpret where our values are. So, Roland's a guy who's trained by these white economists. He was trained at the University of Chicago, if I'm not mistaken. They got a lot of smart white guys there. But unfortunately, when a lot of our kids go to big white universities and they get trained a certain way, they start to gain this sense of superiority over Black people that didn't go to those institutions. They go back and they talk to their grandparents and talk down to them. Like, my grandma had all these beliefs that she believed in, but she was wrong. And I know better, even though my grandma doesn't live twice as long as me, but I know better because I went to Harvard or I went to University of Chicago or whatever, and I think that's, and so what I really see right there is the problem with that article is white folks put you on a perch to write that article because basically what you're doing is you're letting them off the hook. You're acting like, look, hey, there ain't nothing to see here. Look, if black people can't get it, they just can't get it. That's because they're not trying as hard, or they're not choosing education, or all these other things. But the thing is, when you talk about disparity, or a disparity in test scores or whatever, that might be directly linked to how much money you make and all that. But then the question becomes, what caused those disparities? And that's when you got to do the historical analysis, like you talk about. You got to go look and say, why were white people given 98% of the damn wealth for the last 400 years? Of course, you're going to have a disparity come out of that. How am I going to operate with 2% of what you got, or 1% of what you got? And I'm supposed, actually, you said 1/2 of 1%. I'm sorry, I said 2%. I was being generous. But how am I supposed to operate with 1% of what you got, and we somehow supposed to end up in the same place? Just because we, at the end of the race, we all take the same test, and you say, well, this ain't racism. You just didn't get the same test score I got. Well, of course I didn't. You did. You had all this inheritance of wealth and power and privilege that my people do not get. So if you're not going to go deep, if you're not going to do the deep radical surgery, then don't address the issue. You're addressing a deep issue with a very surface level analysis, right? But it looks fancy because you teach at Harvard, but really it's racism 101. It's the same reason you would write an article like that is for the exact same reasons why your wife's name is Franziska Mikor, who's a white woman from Austria, right? That all those things are connected. I'm not making fun of his wife. I'm not, I don't normally make fun, talk about who people marry and all that, but who you marry plays a part. Like the reason you married Mrs. Anderson, that says as much about you as a black man as the research that you did, in your books. All that's connected. Me picking my wife, our wives are similar. Our wives got their PhDs at the same university, Florida State. They're both smart black women who know what they're talking about, and they understand the black man in certain ways. And that's all connected. Like people don't understand that a lot of this is really cultural. So I really think I don't really hate him for writing this article. But what I think we have to really do is we can't let people talk us out of this reality that is around us. The reality is real simple. It seems like that you're saying y'all took our money, y'all took trillions of dollars from us for 400 years. We want our money back. That's it. I think it's real simple. It's not even, we want you to be nice to us. We want you. We don't care about that. You're right. I don't need you. I don't even need you to apologize. Apologize to me with a damn check. Seriously, apologize to me with some land. Apologize to me. Take me to downtown Chicago and give me one of those billion-dollar skyscrapers. That'll be apology enough. You can, you can spit on the skyscraper before you sign it over to me. I don't care. I don't care if you like me or not. And that to me is one of the issues with politics, is that you get into this messed up situation where we sitting around waiting for people to tell us that they like us. And I just ask those people, why don't you like yourself? Ain't that enough for you?
You got it. You got it. And see, and what you're saying, that the next time, see, Roland or whatever his name is, he should, and rather than taking so many economic courses, he need to come over and take some human behavior courses. So that was mine. I got my degrees in human behavior, and I understand them. And see, that means that what he didn't understand is that every human being is a sum total of all of his experiences in life. You're a sum total. And what you do, you put all those things together, and that's what makes you and shapes you. And then what you see in the world is and what you write in the world has a lot to do with your perspective. It has to do with your perception, what you see. It's what you've been taught to see. It's what you want to see. It's what you need to see. It's what people are paying you and compensating you to see. And see, and consequently, you won't be writing all this BS and all these damn conservatives running around saying, I'm a conservative. I'm a conservative. What in the hell are you conserving? Blacks ain't never had a damn thing, a pot urinate in, or a window to throw it out of. You conserving something? What are you conserving? Ask all these black conservatives, what are you conserving? He ain't nothing but a damn black man that's just a little bit above a Sambo, that's running with whites and pretending he's a friend to with the wolves and the dog hounds, and pretending he's a friend to the damn black that's being run down. No. See, the black folk need to understand that and understand what conservative mean. Conservative come from the root word to conserve. What does conserve mean? It means to hold on to what you ain't got or what you have, and then those who don't have ain't gonna get. That's conservatism. I can't put it as simple than that. So and right now they're getting away with it because in all the newspapers and all the television stations talking about, well, I'm bragging, I'm a conservative, and I'm a conservative. I'm not a racist. I'm just a conservative. Why are you conservative? Well, I'm conserving all the money we stole from you all. I'm conserving all that damn cotton you picked, all that rice that you sunk. I'm concerned with all the rapes and with black women I raped, and all the damn black children I produced and never accepted responsibility for. I'm conservative for the fact that black people fought in every damn war to keep us intact. We enjoyed the benefits of them fighting that war. At the same time, we were enslaving their asses here in the United States. I enjoyed all the benefits. That's what I'm concerned. And we have never given blacks anything. We had not once in the history has a white anything, from the president to the ground to the janitor, ever given black any damn thing. And they always smile, I'm a conservative. And the liberals, and the difference between a conservative black and a liberal black is about that big, because a liberal is just as bad. A conservative will sink your boat in a second. And as your boat goes down, a liberal will show up and try to straighten the damn chairs on the deck, and give you a blanket so you go down, cover up your legs when while you're laying in the blanket and going down. And well, yeah, I'm a liberal. I'll accept it. I'll be your friends just as long as you accept your position. A liberal says that if you're on the bottom of a ranking order of acceptability in this country, which means black in a ranking order, black folk are on the bottom of all these ethnic groups and liberal groups, religious groups, everything, you're on the bottom. A liberal says, I'll be your friend down here if you can, and I'll welcome you to integration if you promise to stay in your position at the bottom. And so that's why black folk right now are not moving up. And one thing that I think is very important, like in my family, see, I hated it all my life. My father grew up in South Carolina. Guess what? Down there, they would not let him go to school past the damn third grade. And all of his life now in the South, you know what? It was hurtful for me to see white folk treat him like that. He only had a third grade education. They wouldn't let him go to school when he was younger. And so he had to stay out there and work for them for chicken change money. When he got older, it just berated him to death. He was just so depressed half the time that he couldn't get a decent job because he never learned it. My mother was permitted to go to the 5th grade in South Carolina. My father would only go to the 3rd grade. And guess what? I'm telling you how bad it was. My grandmother in South Carolina, she never got a chance to go to school, not one day in her damn life. And they told her she couldn't go to school. And then when I got out, I helped her get into school. I asked her when she was going to be 97, 98 years of age. I said, grandmother, what do you want? What that you never had, just at this age. She says, son, all I want to do, I like to go to school one day just to see what they do inside the school buildings. I want to see what they do. And I went and asked a teacher at that time, would you do me a favor and help me? Can you let my grandmother come to school and sit in the classroom? She went to a classroom, and at 97, 98 years of age, for the first time in her life, I don't want to hear that crap about, well, we got a disparity gap that's based on skills. You wouldn't let them get into goddamn skills. How are you going to judge somebody based on skills? You deny them the skills. And talk, well, you black folk, we're going to send you to your own schools, but you can't teach anything about law, health, education, anything else. You have to teach them woodwork, how to dig a ditch. And no, see, I don't go for that stuff. And I don't do it. I'm going to raise hell as long as I can. I want every one of those blacks out there that can hear me today. I want every one of your students to do me a big favor and go to every white, call in to every radio station and say, now we are exceptional people. Don't be putting us in these very broad categories, all these so-called fabricated minorities that now, well, you got an Asian coming here and I'm gonna put you in a class. No. Asians weren't even in America during slavery. We didn't have any Asians here. When they came to this country, they didn't come here as slaves. Asians came here and they're now saying, well, we were denied a full salary. We got low pay. Nobody told you to come here and brought you here. You got low pay. Blacks got no pay, N-O, no pay. And then, well, we as Asians, we worked on the railroad, so did blacks. Blacks still did the hardest work and the hardest labor and got no pay. You got paid as an Asian. And then, as a matter of fact, as Asians, you came here after the Civil War ended. Asians came to America after the Civil War ended. And guess what? One of the first things you did by 1885, 86, you go to the damn Supreme Court. What do you go there for? And you file 2 damn lawsuits saying that under no circumstances are we going to be affiliated, associated, identified, or live around Black folk. That's what Asians passed. It's called Wick and Yoke decisions in the Supreme Court. You go look all that stuff up. And so the Black folk now were shut out. Asians came in and started laundries and restaurants, started businesses, and lived with whites, and Black folk couldn't. And now they're talking about we got Asians coming to America, to Harvard and Columbia and Yale, and you got Blacks there with affirmative action plans holding them out, taking up the space. And I said, yes. And let me tell you one thing. I have the dubious or the unquestionable honor of being the Black first, I guess the second person in the history of this nation to write an affirmative action plan. The first affirmative action plan was written in 1789. 1789 was the first affirmative action plan written in the United States. It was written strictly for whites and those who could pass for whites. They gave him everything. And now they're against we're against affirmative action. How in the hell are you gonna be against affirmative action when you came to America and your ancestors came here? They came here on affirmative action. They hadn't earned any rights to come to America and come over and get all these benefits. But you don't stand up against white folk and tell them that. No, if you don't like being in America, don't be climbing over the damn Congress and over the Capitol building. Take your butt back to Europe, where you came from. Don't be coming over talking about, well, you black folk want this and want that. No, you came here to freeload, and you owe Black folks somewhere about $23 trillion. Now you're talking about what's that city I told you about earlier? Where was it now?
Was it Providence? Oh, Providence, Rhode Island. Providence, Rhode Island.
Yeah, Rhode Island. Up in Rhode Island, and you're talking about now, we might give y'all $10 million. $10 million wouldn't make a pimple on a damn elephant's ass. And if it did, he would probably turn around and squeeze it.
Yeah, that's a step above symbolism. That's not even, that's not proper compensation. And I wish there was people there who had the courage to tell them what the right amount would actually be, instead of simply, going along with whatever they want to offer. And by the way, Dr. Anderson, I'm going to jump in because I know you. I don't want to get on the wrong side of Mrs. Anderson, and she told me specifically we had 30 minutes, and we have gone way over that. And so I apologize, everybody, but I'm going to go ahead and jump in, and I look at Dr. Anderson like a father, and I'm gonna deal the way I deal with my daddy. I'm gonna say, okay, Daddy, we done today. We finished. We're gonna go ahead and do this later. And I want to make sure you're okay. And I want to make sure Mrs. Anderson gets what she asked for, because she was gracious enough to let us do this. So I hope everybody could take a minute and give Dr. Anderson a digital thank you. Give him a digital round of applause and show him how much appreciation we have for him coming out here and joining us. He does not do this often, and it is an honor every single time. And I want to remind everybody, his website is powernomics.com. That is a great place to go get your Christmas gifts. If you're giving away books, you can get the library packs and give them away. That really supports the movement, and it also supports your family. And these are the kinds of ideas that are going to be valuable 300 years from now. So feel free to go to powernomics.com. Also, I want to remind everybody that in just a couple of days, we have a Black Wall Street training, a Black Wall Street 4-week masterclass that's happening in the Black Business School. Cody Ransom is going to be the teacher. You saw him on the channel. He really gave you a lot of information about Black Wall Street that the public does not know. And I hope that you all will consider joining that. If you'd like to join us for that masterclass, you can actually join at a discount. We start December 6th. It's 4 weeks long. We would like for you to bring your whole entire family. We want the whole community to see this because it's that amazing. And you can go to BoyceWatkins.com if you'd like to sign up. That's BoyceWatkins.com. All right, everybody. Well, thank you all. Have a good night, and love you, Dr. Anderson. Good to see you, my friend.
All right, thank you. And I'm going to tell you this. I'm trying to earn enough money now to be able to invest with you in your academy. I want you to open that academy in economics for Black folk, and that's so they can learn some economics and how to build wealth. And I'm proud, and hopefully I'll be able to make a major contribution, and as an investor and a partner with you in that. And lastly, I want every Black thinking.
Well, let me say this. I tried to hint to Kanye West. I said a great thing for you to do would be if you're spending all this money on white people's, sneakers and European fashion. How about you write a $10 million check to help us open up some Powernomics institutes around the country? So he heard me say it, but he didn't write the check yet. But then again, maybe if he don't want to do it, then we'll eventually figure out how to get that money. But go ahead, Dr. Anderson, continue, please.
Because I'm proud of you and your willingness to do that, and I'm going to hopefully have some money to contribute with you. I got some stuff I got to write on in terms of your curriculum. I just been so busy. I'm not going to forget about you. I'll do that. I also just didn't want to miss this opportunity to tell you I do plan on putting in some money to be an extra partner with you in that and getting that done. And tell all your listeners to go out. It's critically important for them to go right now. Call all their friends for the upcoming season. Go out and buy those damn books. Everything they want to know about race and race issues and race solutions. There are thousands of solutions that I recommend in those books that can slow whites down now and can get reparations for you. But you have to change everything. Like, first of all, quit calling yourself African American. Start calling yourselves Native Black Americans. You've been here, 99% of you here, your family and relatives here before any whites ever arrived. And all that. So you are Native Black Americans. You're not African Americans. African Americans came after slavery ended. But during slavery, all those blacks came from all around the place. They were born and raised here. And so they are Native Blacks. They're not, and that way they are qualified for reparations. Every time when you use the word African, they say, no, we don't know African anything. You tell me you're Native Blacks, just like all these Native Indians talking about, we are Native Indians, we were here. No, blacks were here before the Indians ever arrived here, right? Those Indians today came from Asia, came across the Bering Straits about 5,000 or 6,000 years ago. Black folk have been here hundreds of thousands of years before these Indians ever arrived in the United States.
All right. Well, there you go. There's your Black history, everybody. And now y'all see why we don't really need the public schools to teach our people. We can teach ourselves. Thank you very much, because we got guys like Dr. Anderson in our community. So have a good night, everybody, and good night, Dr. Anderson. And
Thank you.
It's great to see you, buddy.
Thank you for letting me come on your show. Okay.
Oh, I'm always happy to have you, Dr. Anderson. You know, we love you 100%, and give my best to your family, okay?
Well, thank you, man. You take care of yourself. Tell your wife I said hi.
I sure will. Take care. All right, everybody.